One thing I truly love doing is celebrating the renewal of marriage vows with couples. I invite them to stand in front of the altar just as they did at their wedding day and to renew their vows that they made 25 or 50 or even 60 years previous, where they pledge that they will continue to love each other in good times and bad, in sickness and in health, and then to affirm, to pray over them with a blessing that affirms that they have indeed been the witness of Christ's love to his church and God's love for his people. And one of the things that couples often reminisce about their wedding day is just how in love they were, and they couldn't have imagined being more in love than they were in that moment. But of course, they look back and say that was nothing compared to how much they love their spouse now 25, 50 or 60 years later. That their love has grown so much because the wedding vows they made were a yes or an I do into an unknown future, not knowing what the future would hold. And something that's really taught me about marriage is that yes on the wedding day needs to be made again and again and again in deeper and deeper ways. I think this is also true for our Christian life, our discipleship with Jesus. And I want to explore that through the lens of this weekend's gospel, where tonight we hear Jesus firstly inviting the disciples to catch fish once again in a miraculous way. The disciples have been fishing all night. They catch nothing. They see Jesus on the shore who says, "Throw your nets out the other side and you'll catch something." And that miraculous catch awakens them to who Jesus is. And we hear Peter, excited, swims to shore, recognizing, as John says, it is the Lord. Now, if this passage sounds a little bit familiar, it's because we hear almost the exact same thing happen at the beginning of the Gospels as well. In Matthew, Mark, and Luke's Gospels, almost the first event we hear is Jesus calling the disciples to be fishers of men through a miraculous catch of fish. Here today, it's at the end of the Gospel after the resurrection in John's Gospel, where we hear Jesus once again call the disciples to follow him, following that miraculous catch. And it really serves as quite a beautiful contrast, I think, that what we hear at the beginning of the Gospel is the disciples being called to be fishers of men with probably no idea what on earth being fishers of men would actually entail. But they said yes to Jesus, drawn purely on his charisma, on the love they must have sensed in him at that time. And they said yes into an unknown future, an optimistic, hope-filled yes to whatever may come in following Jesus. Here, though, what we hear in the Gospel today is very different. It's a much wiser, possibly more jaded, a more knowing, but so much more profound and deeper yes. Because it comes for Peter after Peter has denied Jesus before his crucifixion. And we hear today that Jesus asked Peter 3 times, "Do you love me?" To which Peter answers, "Yes, Lord, you know I love you." And he asked him 3 times. And that's clearly to counteract the 3 times that Peter denied Jesus before his crucifixion. And so we hear Jesus affirming Peter, "Do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me?" And then he commissions him to feed my sheep, feed my lambs. And so this is the restoration of Peter. Peter, who was obviously meant to be the leader of the disciples, the rock on which the church would be built, had failed and failed badly. And yet Jesus wants him back. So Jesus calls him back into his love, back into his relationship, and restores him as an apostle, and restores him to the one who will become the leader of apostles in the post-resurrection ministry. Peter then is drawn back by Jesus, and Jesus says, "Peter, when you were young, you walked where you like, you did your own thing, but when you're old, someone will put a belt around you and take you where you would rather not go. Follow me." And those words are left hanging. Follow me. We don't hear what Peter says next. Now, and from history, we know that Peter must have said yes because he then became the leader of the early church. But the account is crafted in such a way that we don't hear Peter's answer because the question is actually asked of us. And it's asked to us in the same position as Peter, in a sense of being restored into friendship with Jesus when we know that the road to discipleship will be hard. So it's Jesus saying to us, now that you know that discipleship has a cost, now you know that it's hard, now you know that you will fail, you will sin along the way, and you know now that it's not just because of how good you are, but because of how good I am that I call you to be my disciple and be my apostle. Now I ask you again, will you follow me? And so we are invited to make that deeper yes to Jesus. Just as married couples are asked to make that deeper yes periodically throughout their lives, at crucial moments where things get tough and they have to say, what are we going to do about this? Let's say yes to our marriage vows that we made before God again. Let's dig deeper and say a deeper yes than we've ever known. And it's those yeses that come together to allow couples to get to the 25 and 50 and even 60 years of marriage safely and fruitfully and lovingly. So too for us in our discipleship with Jesus. Hopefully you've all made that first yes to Jesus, maybe for you many, many years ago, but you're being asked time and time again to say a deeper yes to Jesus. If you heard me speak last week or watched this video last week, you've heard me speak about daring to doubt, and that having the courage to actually doubt can actually bring about a stronger and deeper faith than ever. Perhaps you too have been through those times of difficulty and doubt and darkness in your life, and yet you've come through those clinging to Jesus and saying a stronger yes to him. So I invite you to again today or tonight to reaffirm your yes to Jesus, just as Peter did. Peter's deeper yes allowed him to become an apostle and become the greatest of the apostles of the early church. So too we can make that deeper yes to Jesus, to be more faithful than ever, to be more fruitful in our discipleship, to bear greater fruit and to speak out in Jesus' name more than ever. Let us say yes to him once again.